let's talk about something that happens all the time in business, the hidden tug of war that decides if your project sinks or swims. We're going to dive into a really powerful tool called Forcefield analysis. It's all about seeing the invisible forces that can totally make or break any new idea you have. So, let's get into it. First things first, we've got to talk about a problem that I'm pretty sure we've all seen or maybe even lived through. You've got this brilliant idea, right? A project that has so much potential, but for some reason it just fizzles out. So why does that happen?
I mean, really think about it for a second. Have you ever seen a project that looked like a total slam dunk just stall out or completely failed to deliver? It is so frustrating, and it almost always feels like this big mystery. But you know what? It's almost never just bad luck.
Yeah, these are the usual suspects, right? An idea wasn't fully baked, the timing was off, not enough people were truly on board. But see, these aren't just random events. These are actual distinct forces at play. And the key is learning how to drag them out into the open so you can deal with them.
And that's exactly where we pivot from the problem to the solution. Because instead of just crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, we can use a pretty simple framework to see the entire battlefield, all the things that are helping us and all the things that are holding us back.
So what is force field analysis? Well, at its core, it's really just a way to map out the entire landscape of your project. It makes you identify every single thing that's influencing your project and then sort all those things into two simple buckets: the forces pushing you forward and the forces that are blocking your path. And listen, this isn't some brand new corporate buzzword of the week. This technique was actually developed way back by Kurt Lewin, who was a pioneer in social science. So it has this really solid foundation in understanding how change actually happens inside groups and organizations. This brings us right back to that core idea of a tug of war. So on one side of the rope, you have your driving forces. These are the winds at your back, pushing the project forward. And on the other side, you've got the resisting forces, and they are actively pulling in the exact opposite direction. The fate of your whole project literally comes down to which side is stronger. Okay, theory is great and all, but let's actually see how this works in the real world. Let's imagine a classic, traditional company that's thinking about making a big move into e-commerce. It's time to map out their forces. So on the driving side, the side pushing for change, the forces are pretty strong. You've got massive market pressure to go online, so let's score that a +5. Their old school sales are dropping. That's a really good motivator. We'll call that a +4. And new nimble competitors are jumping into the market, which adds another +3 of urgency. These are all super powerful reasons to make a change. But now let's look at the other side of that rope. The company has a culture that just hates change. That's a huge -4. They also don't have the tech skills they need in-house, which is another big -4. And to top it off, they've historically underinvested in their IT. That's a solid -3. All of a sudden, the path forward doesn't look so simple anymore, does it?
So when we add it all up, you can see the tug of war in this really clear visual way. The driving forces, they total 12 points, but the resisting forces are right on their heels at 11. This project is basically stuck in a stalemate. Yeah, the drivers are technically stronger, but that tiny 1-point difference means any progress is going to be a painful, slow, grinding struggle if it happens at all.
See, this is the cool part. The analysis doesn't just tell you there's a problem, it points you directly to the solution. To win this thing, the company can't just pull harder on their side of the rope. They have to actively weaken the other side. They need to work on the culture, they need to invest real money in tech, and they probably need to bring in some outside experts. All right, so let's say you're sold on the idea and you want to try this on your own project. That's awesome. But to make sure your analysis is actually a powerful tool and not just, some checklist you fill out, there are a few key things you've got to keep in mind. First, be objective. Seriously. It's so easy to be overly optimistic about the good stuff or downplay the bad stuff. Don't. Second, make sure your forces are actually different things. For example, lack of management support might be the exact same thing as inadequate commitment, so don't count it twice. And finally, remember this is not a one-and-done activity. The battlefield is always changing, so you have to reevaluate these forces as your project moves along. Okay, so let's bring all of this back to you and the challenges you're facing. Every single project you take on, no matter how big or small, has this exact same dynamic, this invisible tug of war happening just beneath the surface. And here it is. This is probably the most important strategic takeaway of the whole thing. Real success isn't just about pushing harder on your side of the rope. So often, the smartest strategy is to find a way to weaken the other side. Think about that for a second. How can you reduce the resistance? How can you remove the roadblocks and just make it easier for change to happen? That's the question this analysis forces you to ask. It completely shifts your focus from just being a champion for your idea to being a strategist who manages the entire environment around it. It's about being a project leader, not just a project manager.
So as we wrap this up, I'm just going to leave you with this one thought. Think about your next big project, the one that's on your desk right now. What are the real drivers pushing it forward? And maybe more importantly, what are the hidden forces that are pulling it back? If you can just name them and maybe even rate them, you're already a huge step closer to winning that tug of war.